Hello and welcome to another edition of Wine Talk Wednesday. My name is Clay Wheeler. I'm a certified sommelier through the Court of Master Sommeliers, here to talk to you about Burgess Cellars. They have a myriad of labels under their production, but we're going to talk about three in particular. We're going to talk about their Chardonnay, their Hillside Cabernet, and then the Estate Mountaineer. Now, Burgess Cellars is certified sustainable. So they have a lot of sustainable practices that they do both in the winery and in the cellar and in the vineyard site. They have approximately 27 acres that they farm. But what's very nice about them is they have 21 individual plots that they kind of separate out with different slopes, different aspect ratios, different soil types, different ways that they planted them. So there's minimum or maximum amounts of sunlight that go to them. So they do those 21 plots and then vinify those individual plots separately. So you could have several plots of just Cabernet that might be in the same vineyard area, but because they're at a different slope, they have a different aspect, maybe a little bit different soil type, different way that the vineyards are being planted away from towards the sun, can give it some different styles of wine, different styles of grapes, different growing conditions to maximize and try those things out. So what I like to kind of consider them to be is they're painters, and they're master painters, and they are utilizing all the colors that they can possibly do to create a final product that's absolutely gorgeous. As you all know, with me, I can't talk about wine without talking a little bit about history. And they've got a good amount of history dating back to the 1840s. So 1840s, the Mexican government gives out land grants, and one of the land grants is for the area that is where Burgess is. Moving forward a little bit to the 1870s, George Fountain purchases the place and plants 25 acres. Again, an interesting topic on that part. So planted 25 acres in the 1870s. Today its acreage is 27, so not much has changed. So they're about kind of smaller areas. Throughout the 70s and 80s through the 20s, it jumps from a couple of different families and gets broken up into a couple of different parcels, if you will. And then 80s to the 20s, of course, we talk about the 20s, and you can't talk about the 20s without prohibition. So that halts production in the area where Burgess is now. So much so that they pull a majority of the grapevines up completely and then utilize that area for cattle farming. Prohibition is revoked. It's ended in 1933. Repealed is the word I was looking for. Repealed in 1933, and in 1943 Lee Stewart picks up the place, purchases it, becomes the owner, and then restores the entire place, plants, gets everything going, and then renames it Sovereign. Sovereign's a big name, especially in the what I call the antiquity of Napa Valley, so pre-60s. Sovereign is a big name that comes up quite often. High quality production, and then one of the places where a couple of specific individuals have gotten their start. So Warren Winiarski, who is part of or was part of Stag's Leap Wine Cellars. That was his first job. He first started working there at Sovereign, and then Mike Gergich of Chateau Montelena and of Gergich Estates got his start at Sovereign as well. Move forward a little bit into 1970. Tom Burgess, who is an airplane pilot for the Air Force, visits Napa Valley and falls in love. They say on his on the website that he hears the howl of the wolves in the mountain and falls in love and starts looking for a vineyard site. In 1972, he purchases the place and then puts those parcels that were kind of broken apart between the 1880s and the 20s and puts those together into one and calls it Burgess Cellars. and starts getting accolades and starts getting awards and things of that nature pretty much right off the bat. Um, and then now his two sons, Steve and James. Steve's in charge of the winery, and James is in charge of the vineyard areas. That kind of gets us up to today in a nutshell. So we're going to talk about the Chardonnay first. The Chardonnay comes to us from Russian River, but not only from Russian River, but from a cool area, really far on the Sonoma coast, between Sebastopol and Bodega. So this is cool climate Chardonnay. Um, Now, this does not come from Napa Valley, but the important thing that they wanted to do when they decided that they wanted to make Chardonnay, that they wanted to make it from the best place that they could possibly find in California. And for them, and I'm in agreement, would be Russian River Valley. So they go there. This is the Burnside Vineyard, Burnside Road Vineyards in Russian River Valley. Um, cool climate. So what does that mean? Is the influence of the Pacific Ocean helps to mediate the temperatures in there. So it tends to be a little cooler, but it tends to stay cooler throughout. So you get elevated acidity, which is that mouth-watering feel that you want to have whenever you're drinking wine. Kind of think of like the perfect lemonade that's not too sweet, has that right amount of acidity, that zest, to kind of keep the finish and keep everything going through. Um, they only make 770 cases of this wine, so not a whole lot. And I have at least four of those 770 cases in our wine cellar. Um, so not a lot of production there, which I think is also great. Uh, they do a blend of 12% French oak, 12% stainless steel, and then the remainder is in older barrel neutral oak, or is what we like to call it too. Now, what's the reasoning for that? Again, we talked about it being cool climate, so it's going to be elevated acidity. It's going to take a little longer for those grapes to ripen, so you can get more flavor production over a longer period of time. So you get those phenolics going. Uh, New French oak is going to impart some flavors of vanilla, baking spices, a little bit of cinnamon, um, things like that into the wine. But it only does 12%, so it's only just a touch, just a kiss. Again, we're talking about a master painter, and the new French oak, even at that little bit of amount, is just a little bit of a specific brush stroke or something that he likes to use. Stainless steel. Why do we want to do stainless steel in there? So stainless steel will preserve the floral characteristics in the wine. So it would give it a nice floral character. It would be a little softer, not so straightforward. Um, and then you've got your neutral oak again to give it some oxidation, but to impart those flavors. So you really get the subtlety and the nuances of Chardonnay. I will say right off the bat, if you are a fan of oaky, buttery Chardonnay from Napa Valley, this is probably not your wine. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. This one's just not that style. They do 80% malolactic fermentation, so it's not a full 100% malolactic fermentation. That's what gives the buttery character in wine. So it's a conversion of malolactic or malic acid to lactic acid. So malic acid, think like in a green apple, the acid in the green apple, very tart, very astringent, to lactic acid, so acid you would find in something like milk or cream. Surprisingly enough, if you don't know about this, milk and cream and things like that, butter, they have acidity, they have acid in there. It's a softer, creamier, rounder acid, so you're getting a little more of a rounder mouthfeel in there. Um, Great wine. Again, also because it's cooler climate, you're going to find more citrus, like lemon, lime. You're going to see more like stone fruits in there, like apricot and pear and peach. So it's not going to be your full like super tropical in there. So it's cool climate, great wine, highly recommend it. Now we're going to go to our the next one. So the Cabernet, the Hillside Vineyard, Napa Valley. Um, So they call it hillside vineyard because it comes from two main vineyards. They have their estate, which is west facing on Howell Mountain. So if you look at Howell Mountain and really anything that's in Napa Valley, you have Howell Mountain. Howell Mountain, most everything is facing west, so it's facing into the valley. So their estate is west facing. It is volcanic ash in nature, so that helps with its kind of minerality and gives it some definitive character. It also doesn't see the sun until it's directly overhead and then slowly waning. So it's not as strong, not as intense as you would find. It's also above the cloud line, so it does get more sunshine, and then you get that diurnal shift that we say. So changes from morning to evening, or from afternoon to evening. So the day heat to the nighttime cool. So that can help increase those phenolics that we're talking about, those flavor compounds, and then helps with sugar levels. And then of course at night that helps to preserve acidity. So you get the nice mouth-watering feel and make you want to drink more and eat more along with it. The Napa Cab is 79% Cabernet, 14% Merlot, and then 7% Petit Verdot. Now, Clay, wait, you just said that this is their Cabernet, but now you just said that it's a 79% Cabernet. It's actually rare nowadays to find a wine that is 100% Cabernet. The laws requiring laws for grape designation on a label are 75% for California, for Napa Valley as well. So if it says Cabernet Sauvignon on the wine, it has to be a minimum of 75%, and you can still call it Cabernet. Again, it's rare to find one that's 100% Cabernet nowadays. Blends kind of maintain, even if it's a marginal blend, will still be on there. So 79% Cabernet, predominantly Cabernet, a little bit of Merlot to help kind of soften out the edges, and a little bit of Petit Verdot to give it a little bit more of a dark character, and then and give it some darker fruits, give it a little bit of backbone. This is 20% New French Oak, and a little touch of American Oak. Now, again, I was talking about how they pick certain staves, they pick wines, and they pick different grapes to blend together from different plots. But they also pick different staves that have different thicknesses. They'll pick from different forests in America and in France, and decide if they want to have those type of woods from those areas in there. And then if they don't, then they move them over to something else, or they don't use them. So again, it's that different kind of brush stroke, the different style, to make sure that they get what they want to have for those different 21 plots and for the different grape varieties. So 20% new oak, again, to help kind of round out the wine a little bit. Give it a little bit of that vanilla, a little bit of that cinnamon, cardamom. But overall, great wine. Highly recommend it. We have several cases of both of these. I highly recommend you pick up some. It's 14.5 in alcohol, but I think it's a generous 14.5. It's not. It says 14.5, and that would normally be on the higher spectrum of alcohol. But I think it's true to what it is. It's not. It's 14.5, but it's not that bad. So you have that one, and then of course finally you got the Burgess Mountaineer. So this is a state fruit. Now with both of these, it comes from similar vineyard sites. So you have the estate that's on that ash, and then you also have Haymaker. Now Haymaker is on the east side, or east facing slopes, which is interesting. It's an area between the what they call the mountains, so that above the 1400 cloud line, 400 feet cloud line, and it's not valley floor. It's in between the two. It's what we call alluvial in that area. So it's not valley floor where it's flat, and it's not mountain, so it's above that cloud line. It's in between the two. And then on top of that, it's ancient marine soils, ancient marine sedimentary soils. So adds to minerality, and then also it's eastern facing on the slopes. So you get morning and afternoon sun, but you don't get the evening sun coming through. So again, similar kind of concept, but on the opposite spectrum from the other side. So it gets that sunshine, gets that heat coming in through the day, and then you preserve the acidity, helps to create those phenolics and flavors throughout the late afternoon and evening, because it's not direct sunlight after it passes on the other side of the mountain. This one is a true red blend. It's 45% Syrah, 40% Cabernet Sauvignon, and 15% Verdot, Petit Verdot. Also on volcanic ash with that estate, and then that marine sedimentary soils for the Haymaker vineyard that is east facing. Small production on this one as well, 794 cases produced in the 2013 vintage. Absolutely spectacular wine. This was my wine of 2019. So this is the one that once I tasted it, I was all about it. I suggested it to everyone almost. um, Absolutely fantastic wine. I'm looking forward to doing a tasting with these for you all. Might do that for in the cellar. But yeah, so this is just three of many lineups of wines that they have. Great history, great winemaking. They have a female winemaker right now. Her name is Kelly. She is killing it. And she's always down to talk about the geeky stuff that I like to talk about. Um, but uh, great winery. Absolutely love it. I hope that you enjoy it, and we'll talk to you soon. Cheers. Have a great day.